Today I'm going to be doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon FireRed using Canon Pokemon only. Because it's FireRed, all of the encounters will be Pokemon that Red has owned in the mainline games, spin-offs, and manga. In the manga in particular, one of Red's main traits was that he catches a lot of Pokemon. So, in order to prevent things from getting a little out of control, I'm only going to be picking from his main rotation. This could prove to be a problem, because in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. The full list of rules are listed here and in the description below. Soar the Bulbasaur is our first Pokemon of the run. Sorry Charmander and Squirtle fans, but Bulbasaur is the Ganon starter. The manga says! Soar's nature will be set to gentle since that's what's in the manga, and other manga Pokemon will get similar treatment. My first battle against Blue ends in a loss, but since the Nuzlocke hasn't officially started yet, I won't be counting that as a wipe. The only lasting consequence is that Professor Oak calls me a disappointment. So, great start to the run. The first of the very few early game encounters is the sassy Pika. In the manga, Pika was very disobedient and took a long time before warming up to Red. But this time, she helps us in our revenge match against Blue, and sweeps his team. You go, girl! As you might have guessed, Brock is no issue whatsoever. It's just one sweep after another, and this time, it's at the hands of Soar. Can't do that with Charmander, just saying. After a short walk, we begin our trend of acquiring Pokemon without capturing them. It happens a surprisingly large amount of times, and Gara the Lonely Magikarp is the first. Gara was originally owned and tamed by Misty in the manga, but I'm the guy, so we're fine on our own. When the team and I approach Cerulean City, I'm feeling very ready for the gym fight. Even before fighting the rival and getting past Nugget Bridge, the match against Misty kicks off. Pika does a good job in leading the fight. Her Thunder Shock springs Staryu low enough for Misty to waste her Super Potion. Then Pika outspeeds and gets the kill. Now, Staryu's Water Pulse brought Pika to about 60%. I figure if there's any time for Pika to shine, it's now. But I figured wrong, because obviously the Starmie outsped and proceeds to remove Pika from the picture. This was a really dumb loss on my part. I don't know if it was that I really wanted to use Pika here, or if I just wanted to feel the thrill of some gambling. It was always safe and smart to switch to Gara and get the win. I need to learn from this loss. Oak said he was disappointed earlier, but I just wasn't listening, I guess. With only 2 friends now, and the next level cap being only 3 levels higher, the EXP management has gotten pretty touchy. There are a lot of battles between now and Surge, and no encounters along the way. Gara helps with the rival battle I delayed, and does a great job with Water Pulse. Thanks, Misty. Then by the time I get to the SS and rival fight, Soar and Gara are almost level 24. Gara sweeps the team, but is now even closer to level 25. With the access to Cut, I could technically travel as far as Celadon City to get the next couple of encounters. The problem is that there are plenty of mandatory trainers on the way there and back. Staying under the level cap would be impossible. And now, our gentle Soar is going to have to put up the fight of his life against Lieutenant Surge. The fight against the Lightning American begins with Soar versus Voltorb. They land a pretty annoying Screech and Sonic Boom before a couple Razor Leafs take them down. Pikachu enters next, almost mocking us before surprisingly getting outsped and one-shot with Razor Leaf. Raichu's last and immediately sets up Double Team, but Soar doesn't care and lands Razor Leaf. Then a quick attack makes me realize that I probably should have pivoted by now. -2 defense from Screech and a minus defense nature means that Soar won't get many chances to land a hit. So after our 1 Citrus Berry heals us and we greedily trade some hits, Gara switches in to intimidate the Raichu. Now when Soar comes back in, the strongest move is Shockwave, and the first hit does only 9 damage. But then the next one crits! Soar is backed into a corner. But thankfully he lands the Razor Leaf, triumphantly earning us the 3rd gym badge. Can't do that with Wartortle. With a large portion of Kanto opened up to us, I begin my mid-game journey and go back to the Pewter City and pick up the Old Amber. Normally, I'd advise against trusting a discovery of a lifetime to some random kid, but I can make an exception this once. Our next 2 stops are Rock Tunnel and Route 8. This is where I catch Mac, the Jolly Machop, and Growy, the Adamant Growlithe respectively. Oh, look at him! In most renditions of Red, besides the anime, these 2 are nowhere to be found. However, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee save the day, as Red has these 2 in his post-game fight. If you don't count these as mainline games, that's okay, I use the spin-offs too. Finally, I make it to Celadon City, and that means the encounters don't end. V, the mild Eevee, joins the team next. The manga had a pretty dark storyline for V, being that the genetic makeup was so unstable that it could evolve and devolve to the other Eevee forms endlessly. It didn't feel good though, so I'm gonna keep him a little Eevee for now. Lastly, thanks to Red's boss battles from Pokemon Stadium 2, I could pick up Dratini and Scyther from the Game Corner. I don't quite have the funds for them at the moment, so I'm gonna do some slots for, I don't know, 30 to 40 minutes. How long has it been? What time is it? Oh, that was too long. I got too good. At least I could pick up Scythe, the hardy Scyther, and drag the naive Dratini. I guess since I'm here, I might as well pick up the TMs they're selling too. No, I can't go back. Not again. I'll pick up a charcoal on my way out for Growy. He loves those. Now that I finally have a full team of 6 and then some, we head over to the Pokemon Tower to once again challenge Blue. Gyro returns to make quick work of his Pidgeotto and his own Gyarados. He reveals Execute next, but Growy is even cuter. Oh, he's sleeping! Let's send in Scythe. Okay, well, the Confusion and Leech Seed are pretty nasty. Drag joins the fight and lands a Dragon Rage. Unfortunately, he's also not immune to the dreaded Hypnosis Leech Seed Confusion combo. What's going on? It looks like Sora's able to tank a Confusion and dodge Hypnosis, so he takes out the Execute with a couple cuts. Can't do that with a Charmeleon. From here, Garrett takes care of the Kadabra, and Mac crushes the Charmeleon. The fight really almost went without saying. It's just that darn Execute. Before I fight Erica, I learned that both Scythe and Drag weren't just up for adoption at the Game Corner. They were, in fact, abducted by Team Rocket, who runs the whole place. To make amends for taking part in Team Rocket's schemes by supporting their casino, and to prevent them from continuing this wrong, the team and I head underground and bring our business to Giovanni himself. He obviously holds no remorse, but we were prepared for that. Drag and Scythe's story spoke to Mac, who led the fight to one-shot all 3 of Giovanni's Pokemon. By the end of it all, he just makes a quick getaway. I think the operations might be paused, but there's nothing left to do here but leave. The battle against Erica isn't too long after. I lead with Scythe, and my plan is to set up Swords Dance and sweep with Wing Attack. The plan does get Victory Bell and Tangela to go down, but Scythe ended up a little too low for my liking. He wants to stay in, but I learned the lesson about pushing my luck from Pika. The old reliable Gyara comes in to do some damage with Dragon Rage, but the Paralysis and Giga Drain make me think Vileplume will outlast us. Sora tags in for a little damage, and Gyara comes back in to Intimidate, lowering their physical poison-typed acids. Just a reminder, this game is before the physical and special split. I thought Dragon Rage could kill from here, but yeah, they just healed past the range with Giga Drain. Shortly after, they land another one, and it crit, leaving our Pseudo-Dragon on 2. Now it's finally time for Growy to join the fight. I would have sent him in sooner, but I was worried about Vileplume's damage output, which is no problem now, and Growy gets the win with a couple of Embers. Good boy! With the Silph Scope and Celadon badge in hand, I head to the Pokemon Tower to get the Pokeflute. Drag evolves on the way up, and helps us get to the top after what felt like an oddly personal fight. Growy then gives me a heart attack, and I begin to prepare for the next encounter. Almost every single version of Red has a Snorlax. His battles from the champion fights in Gold and Silver, up through the Ultra games included. He also has an impish one in the manga, who is oddly active in his appearances. The wild Snorlaxes are level 30, so in preparation, I evolve Sor and Growy. Growy could have evolved earlier with the Firestones being available already, but he gets Flame Wheel at level 31. And the Flamethrower TM is not currently, in my reach. With that, the double Intimidates from Gyara and Growy neuter the wild Snorlax just enough, and we catch Snore in no time. With the walkway freed up, I can now also pick up the Super Rod. In the manga, I'm sorry, you're probably tired of hearing that by now, Red's first Pokemon was Poliwag. It's too bad this is the earliest point we could capture the brave Poly, but it is what it is. On my way to evolve Polly, I also evolved V. That's 2 more friends fully evolved. Cool! A fried chicken and a half later, I arrived to Fuchsia City, where one of my favorite gameplay locations from older Pokemon games opens up. Tauros is on Red's team from Pokemon Stadium 2, but is very unlikely to be on mine. As you probably know, Pokemon in the Safari Zone can run away on a whim, so I need to stick to the most consistent catching meta if I want this cow. 2 pieces of bait and a Pokeball over and over is my best bet. Bait, bait, ball. Bait, bait, ball. After a long time, Tauros finally shows his face. I throw my first bait. That's okay. Snore is technically better in every way, but man. Moving on, it's time for Koga. This part of the game is as open world as a Game Boy game could be at the time, so both Koga and Sabrina have the same level cap of 43. I can somewhat circumvent this by knowing Mac and Polly won't be fighting her, so Mac fully evolves and we charge in. Gary intimidates the first coughing, and Polly switches in on a Toxic to take them out with Surf. I could've just led with Polly, but the self-destruct option psyched me out. Muck is next and minimizes when Mac switches in. Then again when Mac digs underground. Luckily he finds the Muck the first time and lands the hit for some sizable damage. The next one misses, but Muck isn't doing too much damage in return, so we're safe to fish for and land the next dig. The second coughing is here and does in fact self-destruct on Gara. The Intimidate lets him live at half, but a crit would have been deadly for anyone. Wheezing is last, and the level is a little intimidating. Snore debuts, but pretty quickly gets poisoned. He only uses Yawn before V joins the fight. All V needs to do is to live 1 hit, and he does it. Unfortunately, after 1 shockwave doesn't even bring him to the half, Koga wakes up wheezing with a full restore. I don't want to risk V, so Polly comes back in. Well, I don't want to risk Polly, so Mac comes back in. After getting poisoned, Mac lands a solid revenge that takes down the wheezing, winning us the 5th badge. You know, every single time I'm thinking this game is getting a little easy, I get stressed out like immediately after. Is that a feature? Thanks to Koga, now we could surf outside of battle, and that brings us to Cinnabar Island. The old Amber from earlier is finally restored into Arrow, the hasty Aerodactyl. Red got him in the manga, and was finally able to soar around the region like the others. And I feel that in my bones right now. Arrow's sportsmanship doesn't stop there. After discovering Giovanni's holding up Silphco, he helps us storm our way all the way to the top, obliterating everything standing in our path. Even in the next fight with Blue, he demolishes his Pidgeot. But the eggs are back, and I want to let Growy out for round 2. But once again, they land a very effective sleep powder. Growy could have stayed in, but the crit confusion made me a little antsy. Sorry, Growy. Snore saves the day and eventually takes out the Execute, and then the Alakazam. Gyarados isn't last, but it is least in the eyes of V, with 1 shockwave being enough to take it down. Charizard is actually last, and luckily for us, Flamethrower isn't enough to deal with V before V deals with him. I don't know why the eggs are the biggest threat in all these fights, but here we are. Immediately, I'm rewarded with Lap, the naive Lapras, for saving the company. I haven't done anything yet and could just walk away, but I won't do that, especially knowing Scythe and Drag's story. Giovanni is still out there, and this time, they both want to help. Lapras was like on all of Red's teams ever. Moving on. Scythe sets up the Swords Dance in front of the Nidorino, who just uses a weak Poison Sting. Then they easily go down to Wing Attack. Rhyhorn is up, so Drag tags in and gets the second kill with Surf. When Kangaskhan comes in, we stay in to set up Thunder Wave, but Fake Out delays us a turn. Once they do get paralyzed, a Mega Punch puts Drag in the yellow. Scythe tags back in while they just use Tail Whip, and again we land another Wing Attack. This is where I probably should have switched Scythe out, but I think his hardy nature was rubbing off on me. We land a second Wing Attack, bringing them to the yellow, but through the para, they land a Mega Punch. Scythe barely holds on, so now it's time to send in Mac. He does what he does best and proceeds to send Giovanni packing, taking down both his Kangaskhan and Nidoqueen in the process. Gio bails once again, but everyone is safe and sound now. The company president then rewards us with a Master Ball. Nice! Maybe not all CEOs, buddy. Now, would you believe it? Running through Team Rocket didn't satisfy Arrow's bloodlust. He goes on a rampage and takes down Sabrina's whole team with no help from anyone else. If Sabrina was a little more assertive, things might have been a little different. But either way, that's our 6th badge acquired, all thanks to Arrow. After flying back to Cinnabar, woo! I take the easiest quiz of my adult life and begin the battle against Blaine. Once again, another easy gym badge. It's mostly thanks to Lap this time. His first battle goes very well, taking out 3 of Blaine's 4 Pokemon, but since things got a little touchy, Polly joins the fight as Blaine's Arcanine heals up all the way. And even after a burn and a crit, Polly is more than capable enough to get the win. Yeah, I calced that in my head actually. I knew for sure she'd live. Giovanni's last hiding spot, I find out, is the Viridian City Gym. That's convenient. I need the gym badge there anyways. So No way. Giovanni is the 8th gym leader? He leads with Rhyhorn, but Sora Giga drains them faster than they arrive. Can't do that with the Charizard. Dugtrio is next, so Scythe gets a free switch in to finish his revenge on Team Rocket. Unfortunately, another Rhyhorn comes out, and Scythe doesn't want to take a Rock Blast. Drag tags in and unleashes a volley of surfs that take out the Dugtrio and weaken the Nidoqueen enough to burn through Geo's potions. Feeling proud of Drag, Scythe comes back in to handily clean up the Queen and King. Giovanni has been defeated, and Team Rocket is no more. They're not particularly going to, pay for their crimes, but they're gone. Before we handle the last stretch of the game, there's one final encounter to get. Red uses this Pokemon temporarily in the manga, but if that's not enough, he's got a pair with it in Pokemon Masters EX. Welcome, Artie, the sassy Articuno. I don't usually use legendaries in Nuzlocks, but this is a great way to spice things up. I don't think I've actually used an Articuno ever, now that I think about it. Thanks to the impressive showings of Scythe and Arrow, as well as feasting his eyes on one of the legendary birds, Drag seems to want in on the flying fun and finally fully evolves. We head over to challenge Blue one last time before the Elite Four. Artie leads this time and easily deals with the Pidgeot. Sora has an easy time against Rhyhorn, and Snore bodies the Alakazam. Next, the eggs come out and I figure this is the perfect time to show off Drag. I guess eggs on my face because they just land a sleep powder on the switch. I hate this thing. Fortunately, Solar Beam is the best they've got, and Drag stays in to eventually wake up and get the one-shot. Even after the Intimidate, Blue's Gyarados 2 goes down, and then his Charizard falls to a single surf. Alright, Drag, I see you. A quick final adventure through Victory Road brings the team and I to the Indigo Plateau. So much has happened on our journey, yet it flew by oh so quickly. I'd like to bring all of my friends to this final challenge, but sadly, I can only bring 6. The lucky few making the fights will be Sor, our gentlest giant from the start, Gara, the consistent beast, Mac, the big brother of the team, Drag, our overpowered baby, Snore, the knight in shining blubber, and Artie, newest to the team and ready for anything. I still don't feel completely adjusted to the mechanics of the classic Pokemon games, but I don't think I've ever been more prepared for an Elite Four. Let's do this. Our first challenge is the Ice-type specialist Lorelei, and Mac is meant to be the star of the show. His Brick Break is enough to one-shot the Dugong, bringing in Slowbro. I figured they're most likely to yawn, so we stay in to miss a Rock Tomb. Then they surf anyways. Good start. Gara comes in and... cool! They used Yawn! Snore switches in while they just use Amnesia. Body Slam brings Slowbro to about 60% and paralyzes them while they set up another Amnesia. I don't feel like elongating this too much, so in order to avoid them using a full restore, Snore spends a couple turns using Brick Break, shaving away at their health. Unfortunately, a Yawn comes out again, so I switch into Gara to get the kill. But without the same type attack boost, she's unable and Lorelei heals after all. Eventually Gara does get the kill, but at the cost of falling asleep. Mac comes out to the cloister setting up Hail. After a couple annoying turns of Protect Stall and Spikes, she too falls to a Brick Break. Jinx is pretty frail, but I feel Mac is too low to take the special hitting Ice Punch. Snore switches back, but immediately gets put to sleep by a Lovely Kiss. He toughs out the damage and soon wakes up to one-shot the Jinx. Finally, Lapras is out. Artie is very healthy and has a plus special defense nature, so they can most likely outdamage the Scottish monster. After a barrage of flies, Lapras lives on 1. And then I make one of the worst mistakes of my career. Lorelei actually has another full restore, but I tunnel visioned and sent Artie up in the air on the heel. So on the way down, Fly is nowhere near enough, and the slower Lapras retaliates, taking out my beautiful bird. Sar saves the day, fighting through confusion to get rid of the Lapras, but it won't undo my mistake. Artie is gone almost as quickly as we got them, and this surprisingly difficult start to the Elite Four is only the beginning. Bruno's fight starts out well enough thanks to Gara ridding us of the first Onix. Then it's fighting versus fighting with Mac and Hitmonchan on the field, but our big bro is victorious. Hitmonlee is a little stronger however, so I switch back to Gara, not wanting to risk anything. From here, a very odd sequence begins. Hitmonlee misses 2 Mega Kicks, Gara burns up a full restore and takes them out with a crit. Bruno's Machamp joins the fight, and so does Sar. From here, Machamp misses every single Rock Tomb, Cross Chop, and Scary Face, aside from 1, giving Sar the perfect opportunity to wither them away with Leech Seed and Poison Powder. Predictably, the last Onix easily goes down to 1 Giga Drain, making Bruno infinitely easier than Lorelei. Oh man, that was so rough for him that he can't even look at me. Look at this. Agatha, Oak's Old Flame, is 3rd, and Drag does a great job handling both her first Gengar and Golbat. Arbok intimidates us, so Mac tags in. On a crit. Snore comes in and does about half with Psychic, gets poisoned by the 3rd Sludge Bomb, but uses another Psychic to conveniently conquer the Cobra. Agatha's Ace Gengar shows up and can only hit us with the physical Sludge Bomb or Shadow Ball, so I switch in Gara to Intimidate, and get poisoned. Well, we don't have a lot to hit them with, so now back to Drag to get poisoned. He eventually does the job, with the poison leaving him very low. Her last Pokemon is Haunter, and this might be the most scared I've ever been of a Haunter. She's got Mean Look, Curse, Hypnosis, and Dream Eater. Mostly passive moves, sure, but perfect for ruining my whole day. Drag and Snore are soon dead to poison. Gara's special attack isn't good, so I don't think we could take them out before dying to a curse. And both Sar and Mac are weak to Dream Eater, should Hypnosis land. Anything can happen right now, but Mac and his Rock Tomb are our best chance of getting rid of the Haunter. He switches in, and they use Mean Look. We're trapped. Next turn, they outspeed and use Hypnosis. And she missed! Mac lands a Rock Tomb, so now she outspeeds and is free to land another. Agatha is done, and I wasn't worried once. Finally, we make it to the Lance. Artie, our best bet to take him down, may be dead, but the team and I are still prepared for anything. An intimidated Mac does good damage to Lance's lead Gyarados, but I switch in my own, so we'll be ready for the next Pokemon. Gara wins the Ditto match with Strength, and baits out Aerodactyl. Since Gara is still at full health, 1 Ancient Power isn't enough to take us down, and we get the kill with Surf. One of the Dragonairs is next, and it turns out to be the Thunder Waving one when I switch in Snore. Shedskin makes it a little annoying to deal with, but Sar eventually wins with Leech Seed and Cut. The terrifying Dragonite enters the field. Wing Attack is definitely in my future, so I weaken it with Gara's Intimidate. It still does a lot though. I send in Snore next to hopefully put this dragon to sleep, but he just sets up Safeguard, preventing that from happening. Great. If I just committed to Body Slam, we would have been fine, but now Snore is way too low, and they're locked into Outrage. Sadly, it looks like they'll be getting confused after the 3rd turn. At this point, I realize I might need to make some sacrifices. But I don't want to. It looks like my least bloody path to victory is to send in Mac, and hope they hurt themselves in confusion. Mac doesn't take the Outrage as well as I was hoping, so I lock in Rock Tomb and hope for the best. But hope just isn't enough. Dragonite fights through the confusion, marking death number 3. Now, I could send in Gara for a free Intimidate, but Outrage is special in this game, not physical. I could Intimidate to weaken the Wing Attack, but it won't be enough to let Sar switch in on a hit. Drag needs to shine. With what could possibly be the run-under on my opposing side, I consider using the newly taught Blizzard. It would kill without a doubt, but it has a 30% chance to miss. And I don't want to risk that. Instead, I lock in Wing Attack. Drag actually outspeeds, but it doesn't get the kill. Once again, the confusion doesn't hit, and I prepare for the worst. But to my surprise, Lance's Dragonite actually uses the Intimidated Hyper Beam instead. There's a chance! At least, that's what I thought in the last moments before Hyper Beam crits and ruins everything. Sar, Gera, and Snore are all that's left. There's still a way out of this, but Lance has the other Dragonair left as well. Sar is the only one who's capable of dealing with both dragons, even being paralyzed. Our Gentle Giant joins the fight again, and I get flashbacks to how he carried us in the early game. But sadly, those will only ever be flashbacks. I instinctively send it with Cut because Giga Drain is 4 times resisted, and while the Dragonite is recharging, Sar's Cut misses. I'm shattered as I can't help but watch the run crash and burn before my eyes. No matter what damage Sar does, Dragonite just outdoes it. Can't do that with Blastoise. Even after another Intimidate from Gera, the 3 remaining friends eventually go down, ending the Elite Four run right before the champion. Normally, this is where I would end the run entirely and start over, but seeing as we've come so far, and happen to have 6 members left in the box, desperately wanting to avenge the fallen, I decided to push forward. If you want to count this as a failed attempt entirely, I don't blame you. I kind of agree. If anything, feel free to call this attempt 2. With what ended up being the B team in hand, I head to a place I told myself I would never return to. Scythe gives me his blessing, and I head back to the slots, baby! Finally, I could cash in these coins and get the really good TMs. Let's see. Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. Oh no. Many moons later, I teach the TMs to the remaining team, and we make it back to the Indigo Plateau. This time around, we're going to be bringing Growy, our goodest boy, V, our goodest bolt, Scythe, the eagerly vengeful, Polly, who has some big shoes to fill, Lap, Scottish, and Arrow, a beast built for battle. We've got a second chance here. I'm gonna try my best not to blow it. This run-up is surprisingly simple compared to the first attempt. V does incredible into Lorelei's team, and Thunderbolts most of them into dust. All aside from Lapras, who Lap tags in to easily kill with Thunderbolt himself, then Jinx, who's even easier for Growy to take down. With the help of Polly's big muscles and Scythe's big meaty claws, Bruno's battle is even quicker than last time. I kind of feel bad actually. Similarly, V and Growy work together to run through Agatha's team. Obviously, by now I realized I didn't just make errors in the battles in attempt 1, I also messed up with the team building. Things would have gone perfectly fine with a couple of small tweaks. I think I ended up just hyper-focusing on the fact that I had an unusually strong group of Pokemon and was excited to use them. But there are consequences to my actions, and now all I could do is learn from them to make sure I don't make the same mistakes again. We're back to Lance, with more numbers on our side than before, and I plan on keeping it that way. V leads the revenge match and immediately one-shots the opposing Gyarados. One of the Dragonairs is next, and that's the cue for Polly to switch in. She takes a good bit of damage from Dragon Rage and Outrage, but 2 Ice Beams claim the kill. Lance's Aerodactyl switches in, so I go to prove that my arrow was raised a little better. Wing Attack doesn't do much to us on the switch, and we lock in Ancient Power. Arrow's a higher level and easily outspeeds, but we don't quite get the kill. But neither do they, and Arrow wins the Ditto match. Dragonair 2 appears and crits Scythe on the switch. Fair enough. Lap tags in and tanks the next Outrage hit surprisingly well. We get the kill with Ice Beam, and then even more surprisingly, outspeed the Dragonite to one-shot him, winning us the Elite Four challenge. Gah. Great job, team. We made it past Lance and avenged the Fallen. All that's left is the final fight against Blue. There are a few things that he has that I'm afraid of, but this is all we have left. We're not backing down now. As always, Blue leads the champion fight with Pidgeot, but pretty quickly goes down to an Ancient Power and Double Edge from Arrow. No recoil was taken thanks to our ability Rockhead. Gyarados switches in and is once again the perfect food for V, who only takes a Dragon Rage before outspeeding and frying the fish. Blue predictably sends out Rhyhorn, but Polly is bulky enough to survive an Earthquake and one-taps him with Surf. Charizard, Blue's starter, is next. Lap does a good chunk of damage before they heal with their berry and switch into the eggs. They're not nearly as threatening as before, and Growy can switch in. Even after immediately being put to sleep as usual, Growy is safe to stay in and eventually wakes up to finally get a kill on the eggs. Alakazam is clearly a huge threat, and my only counter, Snore, is no longer with us. Now, my only bet is to simply overpower one monster with another. Arrow joins the fight again and tanks a heavy Psychic. We have Fly, it's our strongest move, but it has a chance to miss. So, instead, Arrow outspeeds to land a Double Edge, but it's just not enough. Alakazam proceeds to kill Arrow with a crit Psychic. So close to the end too. Rest in peace, Arrow. Couldn't have done it without you. Scythe switches in to avenge the Fallen. They still outspeed and do over half with Psychic, but now a fully powered return takes down Zam. Charizard is back and is now Blue's final Pokemon. Scythe naturally wants to see this to the end and take out the Charizard himself. But I'm not risking any more friends today. Lap switches in instead, and almost dies to a Fire Blast. But I'm not risking any more friends today. V switches in and dodges Fire Blast. I really wish Sora and the others were here to see this, but V outspeeds and takes out Blue's Charizard, winning us not only the champion fight, but the entire game. It's canon! Wow, I could have just done that the first time. You know, there was actually a point in the run where I thought to myself, man, these games are almost as easy as X and Y. These canon runs are really fun to do. And this one is probably going to be the easiest of them all, actually. So stay tuned to see how the others end up going. I promise I will not fumble like that again. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, I recently unlocked channel memberships. There are 3 tiers, but honestly, even just liking, commenting, and subscribing if you aren't, would mean a whole lot. By the way, who was your favorite canon Pokemon? Was there someone that should have gotten more time to shine? If your answer is Artie, I'm sorry. In between videos, I'm also streaming on Twitch and trying to edit the streams down to my highlights channel. Links to everything are in the description below. I'd love to see you all there. Once again, thank you all so much for your time, especially if you made it to the end. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.